Hello everybody, and welcome to this Animal University webinar on how you can participate on interspecies communication research. My name is Zoe Hanley, and I am the Director of Research at Animal University and a wildlife ecologist as well as an animal communicator. And thanks for joining us today. I'm going to start off talking about the current scientific theory of life and how this relates to animal research in this webinar. Next, I'm going to talk about new ideas and methods regarding animal research, and the reason why I want us to go over these first 2 points is because I want you to understand the shift in scientific thought that's currently occurring and how this relates to how this research that Animal University is conducting may be received by the larger scientific community. And lastly, I'm going to go over the research opportunities at Animal University and how you can be involved. So starting with the current scientific theory of life, this is the mechanistic theory, which states that living organisms are regarded as physico-chemical machines, and that all phenomena of life are considered to be explicable in terms of physics and chemistry. This has been the predominant theory for over 400 years, and so as this states, all living beings are essentially machines under this theory, including humans. And everything we do is programmed, which falls into the categories of instinct and previously learned behavior. So I'm sure that most of you that are tuned in right now do not believe that humans or animals are machines, and many people today really don't believe that. So why has this been the predominant theory for so long? For the most part, because you can prove it. Questions regarding our physical and chemical makeup can be adequately addressed and answered, with a few exceptions that I'm going to talk about. And cracking the genetic code is currently the strongest argument in this theory's favor. So next I'm going to discuss 2 examples of the research model using the mechanistic theory so that you can compare the new methods that I'm going to talk about in a bit and how these are changing. I'm going to start with a laboratory approach, and an example of a lab approach involving the mechanistic theory of life would include something like provoking various stimuli from a species, spending many hours and resources to get information regarding their genetic code and how it changes with different stimuli. And this is all to glean some insight about the species' behavior as an example. An example of an in-the-field approach, or meaning going out into nature and conducting research, is similar to the laboratory approach in that you're still attempting to provoke some type of response or take an indirect measure of a species' presence or habits. You spend many hours and resources to come up with a map of potential habitats they may prefer to live in, as an example. And this is all used to make an educated guess as to why these results may be the case. So we actually know that this bobcat scaled this 20-foot cactus to escape wild dogs. However, if a researcher didn't know this and just saw signs after the fact that the bobcat scaled the cactus and that this behavior was repeated on multiple occasions, they may try to come up with some hypothesis about bobcats evolving to stalk prey from the top of cacti because there's nowhere else to hide in the desert. And that would be inaccurate, so I believe that there's a better way to go about adequately and accurately addressing questions like these, and we'll talk about that at the end of the webinar. So this leads me to the limitations of the mechanistic theory and how we currently conduct scientific research, and this is called by many the unsolved problems of biology. Without going too in-depth, I'm going to give an example from each type of research that I previously mentioned, starting with the laboratory approach. So morphogenesis, or the becoming of a form, is a huge topic of lab research right now, especially since we cracked the genetic code, as I mentioned, and now we want to know what each gene codes for, such as how the pieces of a mammalian heart develop. As scientists have looked into how genes are inherited, they've found that identical copies of DNA are passed on to every cell during development. So how is it that identical cells can develop into different pieces of the whole? How is it that this first bit of DNA becomes the aorta, the second the atrium, and the third the ventricle? Science doesn't know. Secondly, an example of an in-the-field approach to the mechanistic theory is the explanation of behavior. And I'll use the European cuckoo as an example. The cuckoos are brood parasites, which means that they lay their eggs in other species' nests and make them raise the young cuckoo. Therefore, the nestling cuckoo has never seen their parents or another cuckoo in its entire life. So as you can see in this picture, this very large nestling cuckoo is just precariously perched on top of this tiny wren nest with this very small mother wren frantically trying to feed it. However, during their winter migration from Europe to Africa, adults leave about a month before the young, and the young cuckoos are still able to congregate and join the elders in Africa without ever having seen another member of their species or making the trip before. Modern biology writes this off as instinct, but this phenomena is effectively unexplained. And because of these unanswered questions in biology, new ideas and methodologies have come about. And individuals have proposed their own theories as to how and why these phenomena occur and different methodologies of how to conduct research in these areas. Quantum physics, which originated in the mid-1800s, has in recent years become more popular as a means to adequately describe how the universe works, from telepathy to black holes. One of the current leading individuals in this alternative ideas quest is Rupert Sheldrake, and I'd like to focus on him because he's greatly influenced my ideas on how the world may work, and since the 80s he has proposed and researched his theories of morphogenetic and morphic fields, and I will discuss where telepathy falls into these theories. Morphogenetic fields were not discovered by Sheldrake, they were just redefined. So morphogenetic literally means the form that a genetic structure takes, and as opposed to the conventional belief that these fields are constructed mechanically, as in the mechanistic theory, Sheldrake believes that they're influenced by a pre-existing field of each structure, that all new structures come about because they've occurred before, and that there's a corresponding morphogenetic field associated with them. He believes that we are not mechanical beings, but our form and activities are governed by pre-existing structural fields. So this would explain identical DNA forming different portions of the heart. According to Sheldrake, individual DNA strands are controlled by a pre-existing morphogenetic field of, in this case, the aorta, the atrium, and the ventricle. The morphogenetic field, or essentially the outline of each part, controls the structure and function of each strand that DNA will take. In addition, the DNA have their own morphogenetic field and the heart its own. So this is a hierarchical process. The DNA are governed by the fields of each heart structure, and those structures are governed by the field of the heart itself. Morphogenetic fields are a subset of morphic fields, which are fields around any living organism, including humans, that organizes its characteristic structure and pattern of activity. This includes the organizing fields of animal and human behavior, of social and cultural systems, and of mental activity because they contain an inherent memory, and morphic and morphogenetic fields are based off of past forms. So back to the migrating European cuckoo example, this mother wren is resonating in a different morphic field than the cuckoo chick, but all cuckoo chicks, young and old, are part of the same morphic field, so they are able to find each other, Sheldrake believes, over any distance because morphic fields are always interconnected. So this species can migrate across continents and find one another as a result of the memory stored within that morphic field. And this is where telepathy falls into a social category of a morphic field, and this can be an interconnectedness between species or within species. And this man has so many books, recordings, and experiments currently going on. I can give you information for the materials that I've referenced most at the end of the webinar. But what I want to focus on was Rupert Sheldrake's citizen science approach. And by citizen science, I mean using non-scientists and or the general public to conduct research, because this is getting into the meat of what interspecies communication research and other alternative energy research is evolving into. On his website, he lists simple experiments that you can do at home, and your participation in these will greatly aid in this body of research, so I really encourage you to check him out. And again, I have this information available at the end of the webinar. All right, so getting into the actual interspecies communication and what Animal University has to offer. Before I go into all of that, I would like to define what I am talking about when I say interspecies communication, just so everybody's on the same page. Interspecies telepathic communication is the ability to telepathically connect with a being of another species and communicate with them. Two-way communication is accomplished not only with words, but with images, feelings, thoughts, and emotions. So anytime I say telepathy, interspecies communication, or interspecies telepathic communication, this is what I'm referring to. And again, before I get into this, I would like to go over why I think interspecies communication can be used in a biological context. First, I believe we can spend less time and resources to address these specific questions or issues. Two, it's a painless and non-invasive approach, whereas many other biological research means are painless and invasive. And lastly, it's a more direct approach. There's less guessing and theorizing because you're going directly to the source and asking them a question. All right, so there are three categories of research opportunities that are available currently at Animal University for you to participate in. And this first one is a few projects, one right now, to validate interspecies communication as a legitimate scientific practice. The second is to address biological questions. And the third is to alleviate human-wildlife conflict. So I'm going to start going over a project that was developed to help validate interspecies communication. The purpose of this and future projects is to create a foundation for the scientific community to accept interspecies communication as a legitimate practice so that these other studies I'll mention in a minute are taken seriously. We're going to start out doing a telepathic remote viewing study, which just means that the interspecies communicator will be viewing objects through the animal's eyes. We will be using domestic animals for this study, so any dog, cat, bird, horse, etc. is welcome to participate. And there will be three trials. One involves viewing objects through your own animal's eyes, the next through another animal's eyes that you are unfamiliar with, and lastly, groups of communicators will be viewing objects through a single animal's eyes. So if you're an interspecies communicator and you do not have an animal, you're still more than welcome to participate. You'll just be excluded from that first trial. This study will be primarily conducted from your residence, and I will come to you and present your animal with the items which you'll be viewing in their natural environment. And this is really to prevent stress and distraction for your animal. However, because I have to come to you, this study is only available to Colorado residents within 2 hours of the Denver metro area. And lastly, this opportunity ends on June 20th. That is when we'll be starting the study, so please let me know if you're interested before that date. The second project we have going on is to address biological questions. And again, why do I believe using interspecies communication in this context is a good idea? I've just pulled a few examples from the Journal of Behavioral Ecology that I would like to use. There are areas that I believe interspecies communication could be used to address these specific questions. So firstly, what best explains vigilance in elk? Characteristics of prey, predators, or the environment. Secondly, signaling by decorating webs, luring prey, or deterring predators. And lastly, does ambient noise affect growth in begging call structure and nestling birds? You can be assured that countless man-hours and hundreds, if not thousands of dollars were spent attempting to use second-hand means of assessing these animals' behavior patterns, when I believe we can just really go out and ask them what is going on. And on that note, we're starting a project studying captive wolf diets at Wolf Sanctuary outside of Fort Collins. They are a captive wolf and wolf dog rescue sanctuary and rehabilitation center. And the study involves literally asking the wolves once a week what they ate and recording your results and any other hits that you may get. It's as simple as that. This is really a pilot study to work out the kinks and methodology for larger studies with wild animals. And it will include one field trip to the sanctuary because I would love for everybody to meet these wonderful animals that we'll be working with. most of which have agreed to work with us for your information. Although no direct contact with them is required. You can see that I did visit with them, and they're absolutely wonderful one-on-one, but if you would like to view them through the fence, that's perfectly fine as well. This field trip is also not required, and you do not have to reside in the Denver metro area to participate, as the rest of the study will be conducted from home. And the home portion just requires you to take a few minutes once a week to contact the wolves that you've been assigned and record your results. And lastly, the category of alleviating human-wildlife conflict. And I believe that interspecies communication could be used in this capacity because in 2009 and 2010, 80 nuisance bears were killed in Colorado, and that's within each year individually. Numbers of killed nuisance foxes, coyotes, and mountain lions are not obtainable because it's legal to shoot on site and no report is necessary. And millions of rodents and insects are killed each year with inhumane traps and poisons. So yes, I am advocating for convincing your rodent and insect house guests to vacate on their own. And I know from personal experience that sometimes this works and sometimes it doesn't, just as in human conflict resolution. But many lives could be saved if we attempted to understand one another and discuss the consequences before drastic or lethal action is taken. So I would love for you to tell me your story or your friend's story of how interspecies communication alleviated human-wildlife conflict. And you can send me your story in a Word document of 500 words or less. Also, any ideas that you may have in regards to contacts or resources that we would be able to use for interspecies communication in regards to nuisance wildlife on a consistent basis would be really appreciated. I would love to create a concrete research project in this area. So what's next? Let me know if you're interested in participating in the remote viewing and/or the wolf studies. Oh, I forgot to mention it, as you may have seen on the screen, that wolf study, the opportunity also ends on June 20th. So please let me know if you're interested in either one of those studies before that point in time. And in regards to the human-wildlife conflict, please send in your story or stories, and I would love to brainstorm and get ideas for locations and possible resources that would allow us to test different methods of interspecies conflict management on a regular basis. All of these studies are posted on the AU website, so if you have communicator friends that are unable to attend this webinar, please have them refer to the website and contact me with any questions or interest. And also, any ideas for things to include in these studies and/or additional study ideas, please let me know. This is the beauty of citizen science. You get personal recognition in a publication and the satisfaction of knowing that you contributed to novel research. So please participate, and there will be more projects to come. This is just the beginning. Here's my contact information. So again, let me know if you have any interest or questions. And also, I've put on here where the research studies are located on the Animal University website. Lastly, here are some references that I used, materials that I used to put together this presentation, and a few that have just helped me to develop my own ideas. And as you can see at the bottom, I also have some select journal articles available upon request if you would like those as well. So in conclusion, scientific research theories and methods are evolving to include such phenomena as interspecies communication, and we're at the front lines of this research. This is citizen science, the most unbiased type of research, and as such I need your help. So thank you so much for your time, and I truly hope you enjoyed this Animal University webinar. Thanks.